Well, welcome back. You are tuning into part 3 of what I'm calling Introduction to Healing with Heart. Because we're at part 3, there's already been some story. In fact, we're right in the midst of a story about me driving across the Salmo-Creston Pass, one of the most dangerous passes in all of British Columbia. And we're right in the midst of the story at the part where I'm not even in control. I mean, I am in control physically. I'm driving the car, but my rational control centers, the part of me that runs me, isn't running me. I'm on autopilot. And I have a personality program or an ego program that I call James Bond or 007. I have this program that I've booted up because I've spent most of my life hiding, repressing, denying my fear. That I learned as a little boy that it wasn't okay to show fear, that big boys didn't cry, that suck it up, princess. All kinds of words and phrases came from important, significant people to me in my life that shaped my repression of fear. And this is what Carl Jung, the famous psychiatrist, calls the shadow, the parts of ourselves that we hide, repress, and deny. And we don't just leave this vacuum where we have hidden, repressed, and denied parts of ourselves. We create some personality around that to cover it up. So fear sometimes is covered up with false bravado. And in this case, for me, I call it the James Bond program, because I learned as a kid that a good friend of mine, those friends, those people that acted out the James Bond program, attracted to themselves the admiration of their male peers, and they also attracted girlfriends. They got the love from their female peers. And this is, I'm talking a lot about high school, and most particularly high school, but a little bit before that in secondary school. And so we were at the part in the story where I have finally come to a significant an aha moment. And the only way that I was able to get to this aha moment was to be able to gain some awareness that it wasn't just the schmuck with the high beams that was creating all my problems. I had to come to that place of awareness that I was afraid. And as bizarre as that may sound, this is not long ago, 6, 7 years perhaps, 5. It was a struggle for me at that time to even know that I was in the midst of fear. Very often I would have thought I was in the midst of anger. Or maybe I just didn't even notice that sensation in the pit of my bowel that I now recognize as fear, because it was always there. Maybe it was just such a low level I didn't notice it. So awareness is a first big step. And it's the first big step that we take in this course that I call Healing with Heart, is to accept the emotions as they arise, to realize that they are a most significant truth in the moment, and that there's nothing more true and more real in this world than the emotions in the moment. And so I came to that awareness that I had fear. I came to that place of acceptance of the fear. I wasn't trying to hide, repress, or deny. I was talking to myself about the fear, realizing that I had fear, and starting to ask some questions about what is this fear all about. And when I asked those questions about what is this fear all about, I started to tease out, to uncover some of the core beliefs, some of the core limiting beliefs behind the fear, some of the expectations. And as I dug into the beliefs behind the fear, I found the 007 program. I found the core limiting belief that it's wimpy to be afraid, that scaredy cats are unlovable. Those are some core limiting beliefs. They may have made the world safe at one point in my life, but they certainly weren't making it safe anymore. In fact, on the Salmo Crescent, I was driving too fast. That those beliefs weren't making the Salmo Crescent drive experience safe at all. And as I came to this aha moment, I was able to separate that quarter second of space between the emotion that's booted up as a result of the stimulus of the Salmo Crescent in crummy weather, the fear that results from that stimulus. I was able to separate that out from the personality program of James Bond 007. And in that moment of separating those two out, all of a sudden I came to the place of choice. And that's what life really is all about. A series of choices, one after another, after another, after another. And this choice I was able to finally make consciously. I wasn't running autopilot anymore. Even though one of the choices that I could have made out of this aha moment was just to continue as is, to drive exactly as I had been driving, just slightly below the speed limit for summer driving conditions. But I had a whole bunch of other choices that came out of this aha, out of this separation of fear from the personality program of James Bond 007. Another choice would be a simple one, just slow down. I mean, it sounds ridiculous now, but at the time, that was revolutionary. Whoa, I'm afraid I could slow down. Wow. And the choices keep coming. You know, as locked in as I felt in life in many ways, in many places, as soon as I can get to this place of emotional intelligence, a bunch of choices begin to open up for me. So get a motel was another choice that came out of this. And as I continued to explore the choices, there were numerous others. I could have logged in on the internet long before setting out in the car. I could have logged in and seen what information there was on weather conditions and driving conditions. I could have just stayed in Nelson and not gone. You know, they say one of the biggest killers of doctors is learning how to fly, because they don't seem to follow the same kinds of restrictions on not leaving that day, even though the weather conditions are poor. They've got to get to their appointments. They've got to get to their see their patients. And this is kind of the same thing that was going on for me. That there was no way I was going to be stopped by some silly snowy conditions on the Salmo Crescent. No, I was going to get through. And so I came to this place of where we will go in the course. It might just be as short as 10 seconds of emotional transparency. It might be 10 seconds of emotional transparency that finally breaks through doing the same old things over and over and over again and expecting a different result, which some believe is Einstein's definition of insanity. We'll get to that place, hopefully, of 10 seconds of emotional transparency that will break through that insanity that you have been running in some parts of your life. And so those steps, again, are awareness of the emotions, acceptance of the emotions, not trying to hide, repress, or deny, digging into the beliefs that are behind the emotions, looking for the core limiting beliefs, and then exploring all of the choices that come out of those first 3 or 4 steps. You know, there's a story of a man named Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist who was interned in the Nazi war camps. He was a Jewish man. He was interned in the Nazi war camps during World War II. And he made a point of bringing some meaning to this experience. He followed, he watched those in the camps, in the war camps around him, and what he realized was that those that gave up, there was a difference between those that gave up and died quickly and those that survived. And the difference was those that survived were able to find some meaning in their experience. They were able to perceive things in a different way that brought meaning to their life. And no matter how poorly they were treated, no matter what sort of atrocities they were subjected to, that meaning, that choice of how I'm going to perceive this event was always their freedom. They could always attach meaning and make choices no matter what other people did to them. And that's the same place, well, maybe not quite as dramatic, a similar place that I got to on the Salmo Creston, around having a bunch of different ways that I could perceive what was happening to me with the high beams, and a bunch of choices that I could make coming out of those perceptions. Frankl went on to say that when we are no longer able to change a situation, just think of an incurable disease such as inoperable cancer, then we are challenged to change ourselves. And he said that the survivors saw challenges in the world through hopeful eyes, and that those that didn't survive saw obstacles in the world through despairing eyes. And that the survivors never gave up their freedom of choice. That there was always that freedom available to them to choose how to perceive what was happening to them, to choose how they would emote based on what was happening to them. But the freedom of choice was always intact in the survivors. We are so fortunate in our society, in North America, in Canada, to be so far removed from that world of Nazi Germany. We have such a vast experience of freedoms, and yet, even within that vast democratic free society, there is a lot of self-imposed limitation in our world. In the process of being socialized, in the process of being domesticated, there's a lot of self-imposed limitation, and that's where we will go with this course, is looking at what core limiting beliefs did you take on in childhood that are the bars to your cage. And a lot of these self-imposed core limiting beliefs I wasn't even conscious of when I first started to do this kind of work. And so that'll be the first step, is to gain some consciousness of the beliefs, the programs like the James Bond program that are running me in certain circumstances. And those circumstances tend to be the ones where I am emotionally charged. I've got some anger, I'm in conflict, I've got some fear, there's something that seems to have some consequence. That's when I boot up my programs. And so that's what we will look at in the next session of Introduction to Healing with Heart. That'll be part 4. Thank you for being with me, and I look forward to seeing and meeting and hearing from you in the near future.